we think about fear of failure, which a lot of people have, regardless of what the failure is, what advice would you give them from a brain perspective and from a cognitive behavioral therapy perspective?
Explore the fear. What's the fear related to? So with a patient, I would do what we call a drill down.
Okay.
So you feel fear because...
Okay.
What's the thought? Because remember the cognitive model.
Yes.
Thoughts produce emotions, which produce behaviors. So feel fear what? Well, what if I don't succeed? And if you don't succeed, what? Well, then I won't get promoted. And if you don't get promoted, what? Well, then I won't be as successful as my friends. And if you're not as successful as your friends, what? Well, then they might not include me anymore. And if they don't include you anymore, what? Well, then I'm a loser. I'm a loser what? So you keep going down and down and down until you get to the bottom. And probably the fear of I'm a loser relates to feeling less than or feeling like they don't measure up.
Right.
And so you just keep going and keep going and keep going until you hit rock bottom. And usually they will, when I do that, they get there and there's like this aha moment. Ah.
And why do you have to help the brain get to that? Because
we have these negative core beliefs, or what we like to call them in cognitive therapy world, stuck points.
Yeah. And
they are, think of them like a tree trunk. And then there are all these branches and root systems that grow off of them. And they're just really insidious in us. And we have to get to the core so we can challenge that core. So in this example I just gave you, I am a loser. The first thing I would do is then ask the patient, well, what's the evidence for that? Because if you're telling yourself you're a loser and you're feeling very strongly about it, let's prove it. So what are the facts?
So that's the next step.
That's the
so
next
after
step.
They get to that core stuck point, then you ask, what are the facts for that?
Let's challenge it. Yeah.
Let's challenge it. Okay.
So oftentimes people will say, I'm a loser because I failed at this exam, or I didn't get that promotion, or my friends don't want to hang out with me. And then there's evidence, always evidence. Usually, sometimes it's harder for them to get to it, but that's my job is, what's the evidence against? Well, I got promoted 2 times before that. Well, I didn't really want to hang out with those friends anymore because they were kind of not interested in things I'm interested in. Well, I don't really like doing this. You know, you just have to work it with what we call Socratic questions. These are open-ended questions that get the other person to really start to think in a problem-solving way.
Okay. So after you, explore the fear or the thoughts, you challenge it, then what?
Well, we never challenge feelings, though. We never challenge the feeling because the feeling is real.
You just challenge the thoughts?
It's the thoughts, exactly.
Okay.
So once they're able to challenge that...
That's interesting. You never challenge the feelings.
No, because feelings are real.
Well...
Very real.
But people can say thoughts are real, too.
Well, thoughts are real, but that doesn't mean they're true. The thought is what produces the emotion, which influences the behavior. And just because you think something doesn't make it a fact. I could say that you're wearing a purple shirt right now. I could
when
think
I really have a white shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so never challenge the feelings. Okay.
And, you know, you and I both know when someone says, you shouldn't feel that way. Never say that.
Right.
You should feel however you are feeling, but maybe your thought needs to be tweaked.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to that point, it's a very pivotal point in the therapy or in working with someone to help them with
whatever
their issues,
it is,
their issues, right? Because what it is you have identified some of these core negative beliefs that they believe about themselves or other people or the world, and it's shaky ground. Because you've held on to that for so long, that's sort of been your way you see the world, the lens with which you view.
Your belief system.
Exactly. And so it's a powerful moment, and it's very pivotal. And then you move to the next stage, which is, how am I going to reframe this?
Okay. So for folks that don't have a significant trauma, this can apply too.
Absolutely, because this is tackling the roadblock.
Yeah.
This is getting out of your own way.
Point. I really like that term.
Mm-hmm. What's your stuck point? We say,
what's your stuck point?
Yes.
What's your stuck point? I like that. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I interrupted there.
Yeah.
Okay, then what? So after the...
So then you work on reframing. So instead of saying I'm a loser, perhaps you could say I've had, what else could you tell yourself? I put it back on them. And what we really sort of help them get to is, I've had some successes, and I'm going to work to get more, or I'm a good person, or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's, sometimes you can only get people to go, let's say someone says, I'm never safe.
Yeah. Oh.
You can only get them to, at first, to say, sometimes I'm safe.
Sometimes I'm safe. Or I'm safe at blah, 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 blah. Or I'm safe with a certain person.
Exactly. But to say I am never safe, the door is closed, the windows are closed, there's no opening, there's no hope there, and it's really hard to climb out of that hole.
Yeah.
So getting them through facts, through evidence, that there are times they have been safe, to be able to slowly open that door opens up a world of possibilities.
So how do you then reinforce it? Let's say we get to a place, and you and I have both been there, where we get unstuck from a belief, from a thought. Then what? How do I reinforce it?
Reinforcing it, because you now have these skills that you can identify, challenge, and reframe.
Yes.
And reinforcing it is using the skills and also paying attention to the evidence that you have identified that is against either the negative belief or for the positive belief.